My name is Abigail Gibbons, and I'm the very proud creator and moderator of the WOW series. And for those of you who don't know who we are or what we're doing, the WOW series is a thought leadership platform that is giving voice to diverse voices and stories of global female leaders from around the world. So we're hosted at our WOW Speaker Series, which you're experiencing today, and our weekly interviews that are hosted on YouTube. And we feature the expertise and stories of women who are really paving the way forward for the next generation of entrepreneurs, activists, athletes, and professionals. And our goal with every conversation is to not only inspire, but to show the next generation of women and those who identify as women that they can see individuals come before them and achieve similar goals that they want to achieve. It's really all about identity, right? When you see yourself represented and when you see other women coming before you achieving goals that you didn't think were possible, you can then achieve it too. And in our conversations, we're also providing actionable advice, mentorship, and making it really easy for women who want to start a business or navigate their careers have the access to these mentorship tools from these women. So today we are here to talk about beauty influencers. And what does that mean? So for us, I call this beauty influencers because it's not what you might typically see on Instagram, right? But it's really women who are paving the way in the beauty industry. All right, so let's get started. First things first, I want to introduce my team here. We have my wonderful WOW Women team here who have helped me make this event possible. So if you guys could raise your hands or introduce yourself in the chat. We have Grace and Mirabai and Marcy here who have been so integral to helping make this happen. Okay, so before we get into introductions, I wanted to start this panel off a bit differently and share my personal story with beauty and beauty standards. So my story with fitting in or not fitting in with the beauty industry begins with first things first. My culture and my skin and my hair has been represented in media, right? So I've had the privilege of at least seeing my culture represented when I turn on the TV or when I look at Instagram. Where I found struggle in fitting in with beauty standards and finding where I belong stems from beauty, not from beauty, from body image. So I was an athlete growing up. I was born and raised in Ohio, and sports were my life. I kind of joke that I didn't have anything else to do, so I just played a ton of different sports. And for me, swimming was what I did, and I did that all the way throughout college. So growing up, when it came to body image, while I didn't fit the standards that were represented in media, you know, I was muscly, I didn't fit into the typical feminine clothes that you see, but I did feel strong and empowered because I was an athlete, you know, like I had that identity to just latch onto. And most importantly, I had a community of female athletes around me who also looked like me and were all different shapes and sizes. Where I really began to struggle was when I graduated and stopped competing. So when my career ended, my body started to change. I started to become more fuller, I started to become more curvy. The clothes that I was used to fitting into didn't fit how they used to. I was like, where do I fit in? And like we all do, we scroll through Instagram, we turn on the TV, we see magazines, and I felt no longer like I was reflected. Where did I fit in? Not only did I lose this identity of being an athlete, but now I didn't really know who I was. And I couldn't see myself reflected. And even those around me, you know, I moved outside of the Midwest. I came here to New York, and I couldn't find women who I really identified with. I was still kind of awkward. Like I had muscles, but, you know, I wasn't an athlete anymore. And there's just like, where do I fit in here? And I couldn't find myself reflected in media. I couldn't find myself reflected in beauty and the typical beauty standards that we hold. But what changes for me was finding a group of women who I could identify with. My girl Katie's on this call, and we talked about this all the time, and she was really so integral. Like I remember talking about this. She's like, oh, I was an athlete too, and like this is what my body looks like now, and this is what I went through. And I started to slowly but surely see other women in real life that I could identify with. I could see other women who I thought looked beautiful, so therefore I felt beautiful. Like, oh, you know what, she looks like me, kind of. I can relate to her. I find community now. I can see that I belong now. So that is the fundamental principle of why we're all here today, because all of these women panelists and all of us here can relate to a different story of not feeling included in the traditional beauty standards, and that needs to change. All of these women have had their culture be underrepresented in media and beauty standards and beauty products, and what we want to do is collectively come together to create more inclusive communities. So while I do not see myself as any type of beauty expert, I know that if we can come together to redefine these standards, thanks to the work that these women are doing, we can begin to change society's standards. And it spans so much more than beyond just beauty standards and beyond the beauty industry. So all of these women here have felt a problem personally. They have not seen themselves represented. They couldn't find the product that they needed. There was a lack of education around it and are coming around to solve it. So this is truly the next generation of beauty brands. You're going to be seeing them in the months and years to come blow up. So I'm so humbled to have all of them here today and for them to share their stories and expertise with you. So of course, we're going to be talking about inclusivity. We're also going to be talking about navigating our careers, our personal stories, and hopefully sharing a lot of great advice that all of you can take back when it comes to either starting your business or even redefining the industry in your own work. All right, so let's go ahead and do our panelist introductions, and then we'll jump into the discussion. So I'm just going to go in the order of my screen, and first we have here is Equi. I met Equi through another WOW woman, which is what I love about this community. It's so personal embedded. It's all about referrals of other incredible women who are doing incredible things. Equi started her hair product company called Equi Botanics, and I will let her share her story and how she started that. But she is really pioneering the way for women of color to have hair products that actually work for them and bring education and awareness around it. So Equi, please take it away.
Oh, hi, everyone. So good to see you guys. Thank you so much, Abby, for organizing this. I was saying earlier before we all jumped in how amazing what work you're doing. And I watched all the interviews and I feel so privileged to be here. I'm Equi, founder of Equi Botanics, and 11 years ago, I lost a patch of my hair to scalp inflammation. And so I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I have an accounting background, international business as a degree to work for somebody else, not to start my own business, and also IT, information technology. So I used to actually pay people to get my hair done. There was no way I would be doing hair. And in fact, listening to you talk about me saying beauty, pioneering, I'm like, who's that? I'm literally just solving a problem that I had in my home. My daughter, who's now going to be 17 next week, she had really tightly coiled, dry Nigerian hair. Nigeria is in West Africa, for those who don't know. So we fame ourselves to say we have the toughest hair ever. So I had to just go into my kitchen and figure out what to mix to do that. So I never really thought about the big wild world out there, how I'm pioneering or representing, but that's where I find myself today. So I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you, Equi. I know what I love about your story is you call it accidental entrepreneurship, which is what so many of us relate to. And no matter what background you come from, you can have all the different business degrees or come from a totally different industry. Anyone can set out to solve a problem that they see and fix it. So Equi is a perfect example of that. Thank you. Okay, so let's jump into our next panelist is Diamond. She also got connected through another previous WOW speaker. She founded her company, Bathos Beauty, which is the first truly inclusive marketplace for beauty products. So if you have a beauty product on this call, you definitely are going to want to connect with her. They just launched, and her story is also so inspiring when it comes to navigating your career path and starting multiple different successful products. So Diamond, please take it away.
Abby, that was a great introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be here today and see all of your beautiful faces. So a little bit about my background. I'm the founder of Bathos Beauty. We're based here in Brooklyn, New York. I have a crazy background. Like my name, I'm multifaceted, and like my background, it's very faceted. I did go to school and I have a degree in business and I focus in strategy, and I also have a bachelor's degree in political science of political regimes because I was really interested on how do we create spaces and how does one person mobilize a bunch of people to do good. I have a background as a celebrity makeup artist working with my favorite talents like A$AP Rocky and Target and Lisa Nichols, and I was really blessed to have those experiences. But during that time, what I saw with my clients and in my own experiences were there wasn't a single place that had products for everyone at any price point, everyone that looks differently. So I used to send my clients around and they would need their products, and I hated sending them to 5 different stores. Or before set, I hated having to go to Ricky's, to MAC Cosmetics, to go to all these different places to make sure there was something in my toolkit for everyone, because I want everyone to feel like their best selves. Realized during COVID at the top of quarantine that I didn't have access to the hair products that I needed digitally because those places that sell the things that I need were just not accessible. in gentrified places like Austin. So I decided that I was going to solve that solution. No, not only are we an inclusive beauty and wellness marketplace, we're mission focused. So we build a platform that changes the narrative around what does beauty really mean, because it's beyond product. This is one industry that no one can escape. I'm sure you guys all need lotion for your skin. I'm sure you need things to clean your body. You can't escape this industry. So how can we reshape it so that everyone can see themselves? Outside of that, a portion of our proceeds actually goes back to rebuilding the infrastructure of society, because if we don't fix it, who's going to do it? So I'm very proud to lead this company and be on this panel and get to know all about you guys and the things that you'd love to see in the world, and see how we can build those things for you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Diamond. I love that. That's a quote I live by. Like, if we don't fix it, who will? Which is why we're all here. So incredible company. Thank you so much. We'll send all the information so everyone will know how to shop, of course, these products and marketplaces by the end of the event. Our next speaker up is Asia Fee, which, quick plug, I forgot to mention, she's going to be giving away a face oil as to one lucky winner here today. So that'll be announced at the end of our panel discussion. So hang on until then, and we will announce the winner. Okay, so I met Asia through our WOW Series community as well. She's a recent graduate and is a woman in STEM. She works in research, and she also started her beauty company, Alchemist Asia. There's a couple things that I really love about Asia and why I wanted to have her speak. You know, when we first connected, she was like, Abby, like, I just graduated. I can't speak on your panel. Or like, look at all these other women. They're like older and they've done more. And we all told her, we were like, Asia, you are here for a reason. You started a beauty company that is redefining the way for women in science. It's making it more accessible for Asian American women. You are an incredible example. So it doesn't matter what age you are. Of course, you can come speak on this panel and you can start your own business, whether you just graduated or you're on to your next career chapter. So Asia, I would love for you to introduce yourself. Take it from here.
Awesome. So thank you for the introduction. That was so sweet. So like she said, my name is Asia. I'm actually calling from Alaska today, but I am from Southern California originally. So my business, Alchemist Asia, I guess somewhat started when I was in high school. I could not afford the lipstick shades I wanted. So anything you could find that was in your price range was either red or nude. And I used to wear like crazy colors like blue to school. And I was like, well, I can't afford Kat Von D, and Kat Von D is like already controversial. So it was like a whole bunch of junk added to it. So I actually started making my own lipstick in high school, and they were absolutely horrible. They sucked, but they gave off the color I wanted. I needed something pigmented, and I did it. And this was actually before I decided where I wanted to go degree wise. Fast forward a couple of years. So as of today, I have graduated with my bachelor's degree in chemistry. And during COVID, I kind of revisited this. So I started making like bath bombs and like small products for myself. And I was like, oh, you know what? I want to make my own like lip gloss, but like not with the Versa gel because it smells like chemicals. I was like, oh, I want to make something like a little bit more natural feeling and smelling. So I went to go buy a lip gloss container, and it came in a pack of 18. And I was like, oh God, like what am I going to do with these? So I ended up making enough for all 18 lip glosses. And I put them on my Instagram story, and I was like, hey, does anyone like want these? And they got bought up. Every single one of them got bought up by friends and acquaintances on the internet. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I had a friend ask, like, are you going to do something with this? Are you going to go further? And so I decided, okay. So I started small, and it slowly began to grow. And my biggest thing is what I've been learning through people who are purchasing from me is I'm catering to those specific needs that they are looking for. So I have people with like psoriasis, like, hey, if you ever make a product for us, like we would love that. So even though it's not products I have out yet, it's research I get to do because I have that chemistry background, and I want to do more research. So even if my products aren't getting their needs, I want to be able to find out where I can help be knowledge wise. So something I introduced when we reopened this January after we relocated to Alaska was custom services. So I now have custom services where you can make your own face creams and make your own lipsticks, because allergies are also a big thing. I have tons of friends who are allergic to cucumber and hemp, and a lot of my products have some of those ingredients. So I want them to have a space where they can make their own custom products that fit their needs, and that way they're not at risk at breaking out or anything like that. So I'm super excited to be here and hear from these amazing women, and I'll pass it off to the next. Thank you.
Thank you, Asia. Yes, I love what you're doing. You're really going out there and just saying, like, how can I help all of these different individuals and the beauty products that they need, and where are they not finding it in the stores? So thank you so much, Asia. And last but not least, we have Priyanka Ganju. We got connected through a mutual connection, and I immediately was like, you have to speak at this panel. I love what you're doing. She comes from the beauty industry, saw the problems and fundamental issues there when it comes to South Asian beauty and beauty standards, and how are they being advertised and produced here in the US, right? So I will let her share her story. I don't want to take away from it, but it is an incredible story for how she started her beauty brand, Kulfi Beauty, which is launching this month. So I'm so humbled that she's taken the time out of her busy schedule to come here and speak with us. And it is really special to have her here right before her launch, so you all can get an inside look into her and what she's doing.
Thank you so much, Abby. It's really an honor to be here and, listening to all of these different stories. I was like taking notes because there's so many common threads of connection in our stories. So as Abby said, I'm Priyanka Ganju. I'm the founder of Kulfi Beauty. Kulfi is celebrating South Asian beauty. I was working in the beauty industry. I was at Estee Lauder and Ipsy for about 6 years. And throughout my time in the industry, I was always like struggling to see myself in it, because I felt that South Asians were never really celebrated. We were always like either tokenized or just not represented at all, or people would say there's this one tan shade that you should just be happy with. And I just felt that made no sense, that there were hundreds of beauty brands, beautiful beauty brands, but there isn't a single one that's really speaking to the South Asian consumer. And that was something, Diamond said, like having to go to these different stores and trying to find product. Like I faced that challenge because my family and friends would ask me, where can I find the best makeup products? And I'd be like, oh, you can go to like NARS for foundation and Kat Von D for lipstick. And like, there are these specific shades that work on our undertones. And it was such a like treasure hunt almost. And I was like, this shouldn't be so hard, right? And I think like something Asia also discovered, like finding the right shades, because our skin tones are different, our undertones are different. And so just being able to understand that nuance and find things that complement that is important. And so that was kind of the thesis. And as we launched a blog and we launched a digital platform, we started to build that community. And Abby mentioned how finding that community of athletes was so important to her in realizing that she's beautiful. I think this community that we're building, where people can see, South Asians can see themselves represented finally outside of the mainstream media and just see diverse personalities, has created so much, positive momentum behind our brand that I'm really grateful for. Ekwi said, like, hey, beauty influencer, who is that? I definitely feel that every day. Like, I have such huge imposter syndrome, like being like, wait, I don't, that's not who I am. I actually was a computer engineering graduate. So as far away from beauty as possible. When I was 22, I didn't even wear makeup, but I think, my personal journey is inspired, and my personal relationship with beauty has inspired me to realize that many of us feel that we were never part of this and we deserve to be. So that's my story and about Kulfi. And we are launching Feb 16th. So please do, check us out when we launch. Any support is always welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you, Priyanka. It's so important. I mean, so many things you said there I really loved. But what I love, and we talked about this in our interview, and what you said just there is like, we deserve to feel beautiful. And also the imposter syndrome when it comes to being in the beauty space. I've kind of went through the same thing. Like, why would I host a beauty panel? Like, I don't even really know like what I'm doing when I put on makeup. I just have the basics. But it's so true that there are fundamental problems that we've all experienced here that we need to solve. And as Diamond said, if we don't, then who will? So thank you so much, ladies, for the introduction. So Diamond, you are up first. On the topic of our experiences and coming from different backgrounds, like Priyanka said, and everyone else here, they came from science, they came from business, they came from tech. You worked, as you said in your introduction, in so many different industries. So how did those experiences shape your journey to leading Phothos? And what's your advice for other women who think that there might be something else out there that they want to start in beauty or outside beauty, and how our experiences can help shape us in what we launch.
Okay, thank you. Super excited to answer that question. I think I've had so many different backgrounds. Like I've worked in tech, I was a product manager, I've worked in marketing, I've worked in all different spaces. And I would say the biggest thing that I can say about all of those different backgrounds, like you, Abby, I was also an athlete in college, and I did go through the whole imposter syndrome and figuring out my body, still figuring it out years later. The biggest thing I would say is that I was curious. In each of those experiences that I had, I was just curious about how things work. I'm naturally a builder. I'm also creative, and I was just always want to know, okay, there's this thing that's in front of me. Everything's made up. So how do they make it up? I just want to dismantle it and figure it out. And most times, if you're able to see something, and through each of my experiences, I found that it wasn't that complicated. If you're able to just see the main points of what's happening, you can figure out all the other pieces in between. So a lot of the things that I've did in my life, I kind of fell into. The biggest one I would say is networks, meeting amazing people like you guys and referring me of like, I have this really curious person who may be interested in X. And then Curious Diamond just shows up. And I'm just like, how does everyone do their job? I can say that being curious and networking were the biggest tools through the many different backgrounds. And okay, I'm leading Pathos Beauty, and it's really exciting. And I worked in tech, and I worked as an athlete. So I know all these different spaces and how to navigate these. And I have networks from all these other spaces. But let me tell you, Pathos is not where I'm going to end. It's one job of the many that I do. I'm also a painter. I plan to go into modeling. I want to build a tech company around payment. This is just the one thing I want to do because it's one platform that I can use to solve some problems that need to be fixed in the world that I personally felt that were missing. So if I were to say, I would say to my younger self, and I'd say to others who are trying to figure it out, honestly, just try everything. If you don't like it, you can pivot. It's okay to pivot. I can honestly say, I'm one of those people where like, I try until I find that thing that sticks. And sometimes it may stick for 2 years, and then you decide that you don't want to do that anymore. Just continuously being curious about everything and not putting myself in any boxes. So that's one tip I'd give to anyone who's trying to figure out what they're doing. Just keep trying. And most importantly, don't be afraid of DMing people. Slide in all the DMs. You'll be surprised. The people at like the largest level will answer you and give you support. Don't be afraid of anything. I mean, you get one life. Nobody makes it out. It's all made up. And if there's anything I can do to sit down and help you see yourselves, or build a platform and help you get the word out about what you're building and what you want to do, feel free to email me, feel free to DM me. I will answer, maybe not right away, but I will answer. Again, just be curious and be patient with yourself. Sky's the limit. I know people say it all the time, but you literally don't have to stick in anything. You can always pivot. I don't know if I answered the question. I just kind of went on a tangent.
You absolutely did. No, it's so true to try everything. And that's what I wish I told my younger self. It's what I told my younger sister too, as she knows all too well. You know, there's no harm in taking the untraditional path.
Yeah.
Just a bit differently and seeing what else is out there. On DMing, you know, half the people here on this panel I DM'd because they commented on your post, and I said, will you please come to this event? It's so true. And it's kind of funny. And starting my business too, I've DM'd celebrities. I DM'd like Priyanka Chopra Jonas's new hair care line that just launched this week. Like, I have no shame. I will be in your DMs as myself. And sometimes people answer and sometimes people don't.
We're all humans, right? That's the biggest thing. It's like, no matter if they're a celebrity, if they're a big name celebrity, A-lister or not, they're all humans. And you just have to make that human connection. I slid in so many DMs, some of the press that I've gotten in the past, just because I slid in somebody's DM, hey, can you help?
Exactly. So on that note of navigating our careers and trying different things, sometimes what can hold us back in trying something new is imposter syndrome. So Ekwe, my next question for you, because we talked about this in our interview, and I think you have a great story when it comes to overcoming imposter syndrome, is we often are afraid to try something new because we are afraid we won't fit in, we won't be good at it, we don't know what we're doing. You know, there's so many different barriers. So a great part of Ekwe's story is how she overcame that. And that was really her key to running a successful business, was just getting over that fear. So Ekwe, what is your story with imposter syndrome? How did you overcome it? And how did that really help change the success of equibotanics and your advice for other women who might be navigating the same issue.
Sure. So, I started off studying accounting because that was what I was told to do. I'm good at math, so just get into accounting. So I did that. And then got married, and then everyone was in IT around us. So I just switched over to IT because that was what would bring in the money to pay the bills. It wasn't around the passion or anything like that. But I wanted to do something, and I didn't know what it was. So I was writing as well, writing stories. And so when the hair thing happened, when I lost my hair, I became obsessed with Googling ingredients. Like I would read the back of every bottle of shampoo just to find out what was going on. I was working at L'Oreal at the time for over 3 years before I got pregnant with my second daughter. So I was obsessed with ingredients. I had this, so I left, I said, okay, do you know what? I want to start a hair. No, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I wanted to solve this problem. So I started to make stuff in my kitchen and give to my friends, some of who are on this event right now. And then they would test it and tell me, oh, this is really good. They'd break open the bottles and then scoop out to the very end. And I'll say, oh, this is how you should make it. Go on eBay and buy this oil, get this emulsifier. I didn't know what that was, but I was figuring it out as I was going along. And I didn't have a preservative. So after a week, the product will go moldy. And they didn't want to have to go through that. So, but deep down inside, I was struggling with, I'm an accountant. I did IT, I'm earning 6 figures. Why should I start a hair company? That's like, it's beneath me. Like thinking about starting a salon. This is traditional conditioning from, where I was growing up, because I was born in Lagos, Nigeria. And you either were a doctor, a lawyer, accountant, there are levels. So to do hair is like beneath. And I did have close family members telling me to stay in my lane. And I thought, oh gosh, I am, wishy-washy. I'm moving around from IT, accounting, all over the place. I don't know what I'm doing. So I would spend hours, like 5 a.m., 3 a.m. on my own, just crying and just trying to understand myself. It was only when I started to listen to two things. So people who wanted what I had, and then spending time with myself. So doing a lot of introspection. I did a strengths finder exercise. I found what my strengths were. I read books like Courage to Ask, how to marry who you are to what you want to build, if that's your plan. And then just to start to believe in myself. And then I found this amazing community of entrepreneurs. I'm like, oh my God, is that what I'm doing? Am I an entrepreneur? And understand that people have this passion and they were running for it. So I stopped listening to the naysayers. That was how I got over imposter, because I already had that to deal with in myself. So I didn't need the extra layers of, oh, you can't do this. You need to stay in your lane. Nobody's going to buy hair products. I heard that so many times. So I had to save up my money, become really clever with bootstrapping and just listening to my community. So I would tell my younger self today that find like-minded people who have done what you're about to do. Like Diamond said, today, back then I didn't have DMs when I was starting out, but right now you have the DMs. You have us on this panel to reach out to if you're trying to start something. And an iron sharpened iron is my favorite saying. So be very careful who you hang around with, because your environment is so key. And the environment you create when you journal, when you meditate, when you pray, when you even think. Because right now, even before this event, I was like, oh my God, I hope my kids don't start streaming Netflix and break up the connection. Sometimes we self-talk, and that creates this imposter syndrome. That creates, excuse me, that creates this fear, and it really, really builds up. So you have to create an environment that you're going to thrive in. And that comes from spending more time with yourself. I don't play with my 5 a.m., 6 a.m. journaling in that corner there. And also your external environment, like Oge is saying in the chat. So that is your internal environment and your external environment. So, and it's a work in progress. So I haven't nailed it. Like I said today, before this event, I was nervous. Even before you called out to me, I'm shaking. I'm like, oh my God, am I going to say the wrong thing? So it's constant, So I would advise you to, when you look at people on, like Diamond said, they're humans. Like people are going through a lot in their lives. Sometimes you're starting a business, you have personal issues. People don't really know that. They don't really see that. So when you connect on a human level, you begin to see that, oh my God, we are actually human beings. These boxes we have of, oh, a celebrity or a CEO, they're all boxes. At the end of the day, we're human beings. And once we connect, we can make magic, we can build so many things. So I would say to my daughters, my younger self, anyone who's on here, to tap into who you are. That is don't be afraid of going it alone. Don't be afraid of listening to your instincts. Once you spend time with yourself, that voice will get louder and louder and louder. And then you'll be able to, like when people say negative things, like, even yourself, you tell yourself, girl, stop that. We're not going there. We're not going down that rabbit negative hole. So that's what I would say. Trust the process. Create environments where you will thrive. And it's a work in progress. It's constant.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Equi. That's so important. And it's such a key in really starting something new, no matter what you're wanting to try. And I remember we talked about in our interview too, not only did you have to navigate imposter syndrome, but when it came to starting your business, tell me if I'm recalling this incorrectly, but when you went to investors and chemists, they told you literally like, oh, nothing will work on Black or African American hair. They were like, it's a lost cause. Why are you even doing this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You had to navigate not only imposter syndrome of, do I fit in here, but also constantly hearing that you don't fit in by people who have the money to fund you, who are leaders in the space, you know what I mean? And you still, because of the internal work that you were doing, were able to navigate that and find a community. And as Haley said, trust the process, right? You were like, I know people still want this product. So you're telling me this investor is telling me it's not worth it, but I have a community here asking for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, someone said to me, a prominent male chemist who had Googled, and I thought, oh my God, this is the person I need to work with. He listened to me blab on, like I was so excited to share this formula. And he said, I don't know what you think you've created, but nothing works on Black hair. And at first, I was traumatized for a very long period. I said, I'm not doing this again. I'm just wasting my time. I'm going to just fold this in. As people say, go back to my accounting or my international business or my technical degree and do what I need to do. I was a SAP business analyst at the time. But someone said to me, this is going to be your story. You're going to speak about this. I'm like, what is she talking about? But look at me today, I'm sharing that same story. So right now, you have those rejections, you have those no's. And I had so many no's. Like I had no's from, I actually pitched to a very large multinational company. And I said, I did my research. The products they'd created were not being, they didn't have customer retention. And it was for Black hair. See, when you create something inspired for Black hair, but you're not a Black person, you don't even know what we need. You're not in our shoes. So how can you create something for us? It's like Priyanka was saying in her interview, someone said, inspired by India collection. How do you know what they need? You're not them, So I just said, after I did a lot of work on myself, I realized he doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't have Black hair. I know what I'm saying. My community is feeding back to me that they need this thing. All I need to do is figure out how to navigate this. And I found an amazing mentor. She didn't get Black hair, but she got me. And that was all I needed. So she just opened my mind to a whole new world, a whole new mindset. And she was no bullshit, seriously. And that's what transformed my journey to what it is today. Sorry, I don't know if I went off tangent. I think I missed something in your question.
No, not at all. That's so important. And we need to hear this, especially for those of us just to feel like we're included, or to feel like, oh, I'm not the only one. Like this feeling was right. Like I felt like I wasn't really represented, or I didn't have this product I needed. To hear your stories, to validate that feeling of not belonging, right? But then to solve it by creating a space where people can belong. And of course, overcoming rejection. Like it's such a deep story. When you're talking about, he said, this investor or chemist said to you, oh, well, nothing works on Black hair. There's just such a fundamental disappointment and hurt in that. And it could have deterred you from starting it, but you were like, no, you know what? He doesn't relate to me. What am I doing listening to him? And it's just that internal work is so important, and finding that community is so important. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It is so important and so inspiring. So you did not go on a tangent at all. We needed to hear it. So on the topic of feeling excluded from the industry, and hearing rejection and hearing no. I want to pass it to Priyanka for our next question. So we did our interview together, and I read her story about Kulfi and her experience in creating it in Allure. And it was really quite interesting in hearing that around the world, representation and colorism is an issue, right? And she talked, I will let her tell more about her journey, but she talked a little bit about how growing up in Delhi, she didn't feel included in the world of beauty. And then she came here and she's working in beauty brands and she's seeing like inspired by India collections. And it's like, wait, what is going on? What is this fundamental issue? It's like here, big beauty brands are maybe trying to be inclusive by having inspired by India collections, but really it's just capitalizing on another culture and not really understanding, not having the people behind it created. So her story really weaves in a lot of different pieces about her personal journey and issues among the industry and how she went out to solve that. So Priyanka, if you could share a little bit about how these personal experiences and professional experiences connected to really lead you to creating Kulfi Beauty, and your advice for other women in not only wanting to start a business, but wanting to create a space that celebrates those who identify them and everyone around them.
Yeah, I mean, first I want to say, like, I loved everything that Equi and Diamond said. Like, I feel like this is the therapy I needed today. So I really, really appreciate these conversations. So I think like growing up, I grew up in India, in Delhi, and in South Asian culture, there's definitely a very narrow beauty standard, which is defined by the patriarchy and also with Eurocentric standards in mind. And that basically meant that to be considered beautiful, I had to be fair, I had to be skinny, and I had to be obedient. And I had trouble fitting into that standard, and so did a lot of people around me. And I think that's something that I felt really challenged by growing up in India, because if you look at Indian media today, in Bollywood, which is our movie industry, as well as just advertising, sometimes they flow in like Eastern European models to be in our movies and be in our ads, because that's the beauty standard they're projecting. And it's just unrealistic for 99% of the people who live there. And so, and I wish I could say like this was 30 years ago when I was growing up. It's still happening today in India. And unfortunately, like not enough is being done to change that conversation. And then I actually did my undergrad studies in Singapore, and I saw the same thing, but in a different way. Colorism is still it's a global conversation, unfortunately, because I saw, again, Asian standards. There's a certain mold that you need to fit in. And in the US, as I started working in the beauty industry, I realized that, brands would do these India inspired or South Asia inspired collections, but they wouldn't even have shades for our skin tones. Like their shades would end at like, I don't know, beige or something, and then the India inspired part would be like projecting South Asian women as victims that need to be like saved, with a lot of like, we call it poverty porn. And I was like, where do I fit into this conversation? Because that's not, I don't see this new generation of South Asian women and people who are just like complete badasses and, killing it in their careers, killing it in their life, not being represented. So that was really frustrating for me. And that's why, those experiences definitely shaped starting Kofi. But then, like Ekwi said, so many naysayers. And I think I wish I'd spoken to her 2 years ago, because I would have just like muted them because it would definitely has a huge psychological impact when you're starting out on your own. And there are two conversations that stand out in my mind where these two people lead like billion-dollar businesses. Like I respected them, from the outside, you read someone's profile and you're like, oh my God, they must know what they're doing. One of them, when COVID started last year, I was in the middle of building this brand, and they were like, oh, you should just get a job, like don't even bother doing this. And I was like, wait, what? And then, just completely dismissing that there was even any future for the brand. And then another one was like, oh, I'm interested. I sent them my deck. And then I showed them my branding materials that I was really proud of, because I think we've done a beautiful job with it. And they said, oh, don't use darker skin tone or deeper skin tone models because they don't sell things. And I was like, did you read my deck? Do you know what I stand for? And it's just, my respect for them was just like lost. But then also like, I think there's just so much shock and trauma that comes from that experience, like having these people who are at the top of their businesses tell you what you're doing is irrelevant or like not a good business idea. But I think it's an opportunity. Clearly, there's like these huge blind spots that people are missing that people of color need to address. And I think we are doing that, as we can see in this panel. So yeah, again, like, I don't know if I went overtime, but I feel, I mean, I feel really, really strongly about this. And I love everyone who's on this panel today, who's kind of shaping their industries.
Absolutely, 100% shaping their industries. And there's so many things that I wanted to say and bring up as you were talking about that. You spend so much time on this deck and you go to present it and people already have their preconceived ideas in their head and their decisions made up. But it's thanks to the work that we're all doing and coming together to say like, hey, we've been told no 100 times. We went through this challenge, but look at this incredible panel here of women who are achieving it. So this is so important in our work for empowering the next generation. And I want to say one thing that you commented on too, when we're talking about colorism. So I am going to embarrass my boyfriend, but I need to tell this story. He's on this call. He's also Indian, and we were at his apartment the other weekend, and I was telling all his friends about my beauty panel. And of course, like some of them like don't get it, you know what I mean? They're just like guys and they're like, okay, cool. Like this sounds cool, but okay. And then they were joking about like the color of their skin and they were like, haha, like we're not as dark as Umar. Like, you know, oh, it sucks for him. Like he's darker. And Umar just comes out from the background and he bursts out and he's like, I love my skin. I don't know what you guys are talking about. And I just like love the energy that he gave. He just like wasn't engaged in the conversation. And then he just like chimed in and was like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but like, I love the way I look. And like, this is a you problem. But at first I was like, it kind of, I was like surprised that they made the comment. And even if it was a joke, but it's like, oh, this is still happening. Like people are still making jokes about this. And then it's just like, I loved that, you know, the confidence that he showed when he went out and said that. So I wanted to tell that story because it just shows like the fundamental issues that we're still having and why this work needs to be done. So thank you, Priyanka. Sorry, Amber, if I embarrassed you. I don't know if he's even hearing what I said now. So Asia, let's pass it to you. When it comes to connecting our personal and professional careers, solving problems that we're facing, what I love about your story is I think you can hear all of us, Equi, Diamond, myself, and Priyanka say like, oh, you know, I wish I heard this when I was your age. And you are a recent graduate who's already starting these things that we didn't have the confidence to start when we were your age, that we didn't know how to solve. You're already on your entrepreneur journey, but you're also showing that women in science can be multifaceted. You can have multiple passions. You can be a woman in science and also start an incredible beauty company, you know, all of these different things. So I would love for you to share your journey to really connecting the pieces between science and beauty and how it came together to form Alchemist Asia, and your advice for other women in the industry who are still navigating their careers and are early on and trying to figure out what they'd like to do.
And definitely, I'd love to elaborate on that. So I want to say that a lot of my inspiration was the fact that I couldn't access the beauty products I wanted. And I know that's a lot with our panelists. Like that's just a reoccurring theme is representation, whether it be your financial status or your ethnicity. These are things that we constantly have to look into. But my last couple of years in my undergraduate career, we actually had some speakers who worked for like L'Oreal and stuff like that. And a lot of the time they were from Puerto Rico. And it was amazing to hear their stories on how they're putting their racial identity into the products that they're making. They're like, oh, I might work for this company that's like from Europe, but I'm like making a name. Like I'm doing this. And it was so inspirational because even though they didn't look like me, it was nice to know someone understood the same situation I was in and they had like similar backgrounds to me. So like having that inspiration was like the Kickstarter. I didn't even know I wanted to do this. Like I was dead set that I was going to work in a lab and I was going to do anti-cancer drug development for the rest of my life. That was the research I was doing. So I was focusing on like cancer and now I'm making like lip gloss. So it's just like crazy to see how that started. But I think the most predominant thing that really got me into Alchemist Asia is the science stigma. So I want to elaborate more on that. So there is a huge stigma against science right now where science is bad, or if I think this is like the biggest thing, if I can't pronounce it, then I'm not going to use it. Like that's like the biggest thing is like you could have a chemical compound on the back of your bottle, and if someone's like, oh, I don't know what that is, like that's harmful for me, I don't know, and I'm like, that's like just table salt, like what are you talking about? Like, but the word I don't want to use because it's a little too harsh is ignorance, but it's that same sort of ignorance as if someone's speaking another language. It's like, oh, well, like they're speaking in Spanish, I don't like that. It's like, well, no, they said something nice about you. It's just you didn't want to take the time to either listen or try and understand it, or even do your research and look at what it meant, like things like that. It's just like that's the same sort of stigma that is involved with science right now. And a lot of products that are on the market are really pushing natural, but when people say natural, they don't elaborate more. And I think it's really confusing, and that's why we have greenwashing. That's another common thing that's happening in the industry. It's like, oh, we're eco-friendly, yeah, and we only use natural products. But it's like, technically, everything that I use in my products is organic, whether it's coconut oil or a chemical compound. Like, that's a different term in science. And so the whole push between my products, so all my products are science themed. I want to reduce that stigma, and I want to teach my community in a non-condescending way about science. So I want them to feel comfortable and know that you don't need a degree to understand what a chemical is or what it does. And I think the biggest backlash I get is from the herbalist communities, or like the raw communities. Although I love learning about it. My family practices traditional Chinese medicine, things like that. It's just, I get the worst backlash from them because they tell me that I use chemicals and therefore my products aren't worthy. But sometimes some of these products, like Equi was telling us, we need emulsifiers, we need preservatives to make sure your products don't go moldy. Like, these are important things. And if you're only using natural products, they only have a shelf life for so long. And sometimes certain products aren't giving you what you need for like your hair or your skin type. So that's why I'm really getting interested in blending the science into the beauty industry. So that was really the push for Alchemist Asia. So I I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. And it's my younger sister chimed in here too. She's the same age as you and also works in cancer research. And she's always telling me about like, Abby, you need to be educated in this, or like, but you're like, let me tell you, like, just because it means it's natural, like, doesn't mean it's good. Like, what are you saying? But what I love about what you're doing that's so important here is making science accessible. And I love what you said about not doing it in a condescending way. Like, how can we educate about our projects so that way we're helping our community, we're helping our consumers. You're also opening up the door. Women in science, we are underrepresented. We need more women in science. We need more women in STEM. And you're opening up that door through your beauty industry and through your product. And even people like me, like I definitely would have been like, oh yeah, I need to know how to like pronounce the product, and like it needs to be all natural. So even for me, like I'm learning, oh, okay, like there's more to the conversation here. And how can we all learn? And also, how can we open up the door for the next generation of women to not feel so intimidated by science, right? And say, oh, this is something that I can do. Like, look at what I'm learning through these beauty products that I'm using. So thank you so much, Asia. It really is so important. And now we're going to jump into our second round of panel questions. So these are going to be all about the future of the industry, what to expect, and again, plug in some advice here. So how we can actually take back creating inclusive communities and brands into our own work. So Diamond, we're going to pass it back to you. In our interview, every time we talk, we're always like, oh, like, all these communities are great, but like we need to bring everyone together, because that's what creates an inclusive community. And I've talked about this with all of our different women. No matter if your product is geared towards a certain culture, geared towards a certain demographic, we all need to come together to have this conversation. And I love how you and I are like, okay, we got to make this happen now. Let's bring like my community together, people who look like you, who look like me, who look like them. Like, let's have them all have a seat at the table. And that's what really drives change. We can all listen to each other, hear each other, see at the end of the day that we really are all human and have fundamental issues that we're going through that are the same. So I'm digressing on a tangent. So my question for you is, what do you think is the future of inclusive communities? We are seeing so many communities pop up here today, like communities that Equi and Priyanka are creating for Black and African American women, for South Asian women. What do you see of the future of inclusivity for brands, influencers, professionals alike? And what's your advice for upcoming brands that are the next generation to ensure that they're creating an inclusive community?
That is a question. There's so many pieces to answer that. I think it's a really beautiful thing that there are people that are creating these communities for places that were not included. Those things are necessary. So you need these niche spaces so that people can find representation and feel empowered and feel good about themselves. But we take that conversation further then and say, when we walk into a room, how do we take all of these different islands, like the different countries that we have in the world, and how do we bring them together? I kind of say, kind of like New York City, there's the entire world in one place. How do we continuously keep building these kinds of spaces? When I think about building inclusive spaces, I always think about that racially ambiguous person who fits nowhere. We have to build something where everyone comes to the table so they can fit. A lot of times we don't, I know I'm going on a tangent, but a lot of times I find that we don't ever ask that racially ambiguous person, what does life look like for them? I grew up with a racially ambiguous father, and I watched the trauma that comes from essentially being isolated and not having spaces where he was represented. So I would say for brands, one thing that I push brands to say is, like, when you're building something, always ask the question every single day, who's not here, right? I think that's something that's very important. In regards to the industry, we're in a weird spot because there's like this whole buzzword, like inclusive, and we're using tokenism and we're putting faces that we think of certain shades and tones to represent what it means to be inclusive. And that's not, inclusivity is far beyond skin color. It's diversity of thought, it's diversity of religion, it's diversity of belief. You have to think about, how do we include everyone? Think about the people who are disabled. How are we creating platforms that they feel like they're included? So if you are putting up a post, make sure you put the alt text behind it. It's very simple, right? If you are creating an app, think about the person who cannot see this app. How can we create this space so they can use it? We have to remember that we are on one planet, and everything that we do has to be for everyone. You can create it for your island, but how can you not only do it for other people who are interested? That's how you build a platform. That's how you excel. I can build it for this space here, but how can I build it that others can support and partake in it? We can do nothing by ourselves.
Our leadership now, these big beauty conglomerates, these big corporations, they are not changing it. So we need the next generation who's coming, who's creating these brands, these companies, these marketplaces, these spaces. So we're the one who needs to change it. And if we're not seeing it being solved, then that's what we're here to do. And just slowly but surely take over one by one small voice and company, that we can continue to come together. Ekwe, on the topic of being fed up with products and companies, for example, hair care leaders that are just not creating space for where we need to be, I would love to hear your perspective on the future of hair care, the future of hair care for Black and African American women, where you see the future of the industry going, and where you see Ekwe and other new leaders in the space going as well.
Yeah, throwing on from what Diamond said, that was amazing, Diamond. I've got to give it to you. Thank you so much for putting into words what most of us are feeling right now. So I was approached by several big companies I hadn't even started working as a company. So the company's still a baby. I'm still figuring out how to, meet my customer needs and figuring out how to run this little business. And someone was asking me, this is all this bunch of money, take it, and we will manufacture for you. You will give us your formula, you give us 50%. And, you have to stay curious when you enter, because I said to you guys earlier, it was accidental. But getting into the industry, I realized, oh my God, this shit is big. There are levels to this. There are investors who want to buy you out, dilute your formula, and then your why is lost along the way. Mm. And so I really struggled to stay true to my path, because you have to bootstrap, you have to be clever where you find money, and you have to have a singular focus, because people will come and try and distract you. They'll flash like other companies, oh, but why aren't you sending enough emails? I subscribe to your email list because I'm a one-woman band. Like, how many things do you want me to do? I'm still learning. And he was so critical, but offering me all this money. And I was at a point where, honestly, it was difficult to even pay my bills. And it was so tempting. I said, no, what's my why? I imagined a row of Black women, different shades, different curl patterns, standing along a road, everybody happy with her hair, everybody feeling beautiful. Is it locks? Is it short hair, bald head? Whatever you want, you're beautiful. It's like, how is this man? You know, I wouldn't name his nationality. How is he going to listen to my voice, my creativity? Even my mentor said to me, like, what you need now is a huge investment because you're going to blow up and you're going to scale. You have to really stop and ask yourself and be curious about the industry you're getting into. You may be accidental, but you have to find out, okay, what are the stakes here? So, and everything is now digital. You can reach your customer yourself. So the retailers Diamond was mentioning, absolutely. Like, I had this dream of, oh, I want to be in this place, on this shop. Is my customer going there? Are they going to speak to her the way I would speak to her? Like, I get DMs from my customers. People are my DM asking me about solutions to the scalp of a 4-year-old who's just undergone chemotherapy. And I take my time to do that research and understand, okay, I don't have something to do internally, but topically I have created something. And I go that extra mile because for me, that is my goal, that every woman who comes to me will feel beautiful in her hair, no matter the color of her skin. I even have Caucasian customers now, funny enough, and I'm like, oh, so this works for you as well? I didn't test that. So it's about what Diamond was saying, being inclusive. I didn't think about being inclusive like that. I thought there is a gap for a woman like me, and that's what I want to fill. But as you grow and as you learn and as you stay curious, you find out, oh, there's other people who gravitate towards you. Yes, there are shelves and shelves of hair shampoos for straight hair, but some people just want what you have. I don't know why. Like, I'm like, oh, but don't you see there's Pantene, there's L'Oreal. Why are you on this website? Like, no, I have this really thick, coily, curly, straight hair. So there's some patterns I didn't even know existed. And it's about staying true to, for me, it's about making that woman feel celebrated. So for the future of Black hair products, all Black women are different. So we have different brands, we have different perspectives. So the way I will brand myself and the way I see the world is different from the way even Diamond will see the world completely, because she has a different background, she has different experiences from myself. So not every Black hair brand is the same. So people will come to me, like an investor said to me, and he's a Black guy, said to me, what's so different about your brand? Like, I have this brand who's at the forefront of things. You know, they've been here 10, 11 years. So what do you have that makes you different? So I was just like so traumatized. I didn't even know how to think it through. When I left the call, I started asking, okay, why am I different? And the list was long because I'm a different type of woman. It's very simple, you know. So don't put yourself in a box. Don't let them put you in a box. Seriously, the reason you have an idea is because an idea is like a coin. One side is the idea, the other side is the implementation of that idea. You will not have got that idea did you not have the wherewithal to fulfill it. So you just need to stay curious and find out how to do so. That is what I would say about the black hair care product industry. There is no black hair care product industry. There is a human industry for beauty. Like Diamond said, you cannot escape the beauty industry because we are all beautiful in our own way. We're all different, what's it called? Different facets of one beauty. So do not allow them to put you in a box. Do not say, oh, actually I must do it this way. There are so many different ways to celebrate your lights. So that's what I would say about the black hair care products industry. I hope that makes sense. Sorry, guys.
No, it absolutely makes sense. And what's so special about what you just said too, and even like helped me when I'm articulating these questions and conversations, is that the future of the hair care industry is moving in a direction that's not just for specific hair products for Black women, specific hair products for this hair type, for my hair type. It's how are we coming together to create products that work for all of us, to create diversity in products that work for all of us to come together and basically just normalizing the fact that we all have different hair and where are the products you need to go and buy it. I think what you said is so important, and just normalizing the industry, and that we do not need to have so many different barriers or have everything fit in a box. As more brands like yours come to the table and we all begin to come together and create inclusive environments, there will be less of I fit here and this product fits here and this product fits there, but actually this works. This is for all of us and this is how we can come together. So thank you so much, Equi. That was a fantastic answer. And Priyanka, so we talked about this in our interview too. We were talking about Kufi and Kufi Beauty, and we both said, like, of course, this brand is for South Asian women and celebrating our culture, but it's for every woman, exactly as Equi was just saying. It's for all of us to come together and feel celebrated, and to feel included. So I would love to hear your advice while we're talking about larger companies and corporations and how they're really failing in their role and responsibility to help navigate and change this industry. I would love to hear your advice for these larger corporations, for women who are working in these industries and brands now, to not make the mistakes that these larger companies have already made, how you can kind of navigate and overcome previous mistakes that have already happened in the beauty industry. And also, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how Kulfi is creating a culture of belonging and celebration for South Asian women and every woman, because I think the way you're doing it is so exceptional, and you're a product and you're a brand, but you really are a community. So 2 questions in one.
Yes, and honestly, for your first question, which is like, how do we create change? It's hard. I mean, that's why I left and started my own brand, because making the change from within these companies is really hard. I used to run merchandising in my past life within the beauty industry, and it's hard to make decisions which cost money, right? Everyone wants to say diversity, but then when you're like, okay, can you allocate money towards it? That's where they're like, okay, actually our business is doing well, serving 80% of the consumers. So, and that's growing. And, I don't know if this is like the most high priority initiative, right? And so I think it gets frustrating hearing that again and again. I think, Diamond brought up Pull Up for Change initiative. I think that's some of these changes in the corporate world have to happen from the top. We need to see more transparency around who's making the decision, who's on the boards of these companies you're buying beauty products from, who's in the executive level, who are the owners, right? Who's allocating capital in this entire industry? And you'll see that 99% of them are, not diverse, and it's just hard for them to even empathize with the problem that I'm trying to solve, or what we're trying to solve. And to go to Equi's comment around, like, I went to an investor and they asked me, like, what's special about you? And because I have seen one Black, hair care brand, I think that I've also faced that thing where I go to investors and they're like, oh, but we have one, they're not even like South Asia. They're like, we have one person of color brand in our portfolio, so we're done. Like, we've hit our checkbox. And I'm like, we're not a checkbox. Even within South Asian, people, there's so much diversity that it's hard for one brand to say, like, we're gonna, like, serve everyone. I think it's impossible, because we all have different personalities, different needs. And so there's a lot of, like, structural change. I think what we can do as consumers is lead with our money. I think Diamond mentioned this too, is like, where do you spend your money? And if you start spending your money differently, then the people who see their profits going down are going to make different decisions differently. And that's what we can do, because I think without that, and without, like, change at the top, it's really hard to make change within the system. But outside the system, we have this amazing ability now to create. And I think in some ways, you can start with less. You can start with directly connecting with your consumer, like Asia was talking about, like, just speaking to your consumer exactly what they need. I think that's what we've been trying to do at Kofi. We're obviously a brand, we're going to have product, but what we started with last year was building a digital community. So on our blog, on our site, we feature up and coming South Asian creatives. And the reason we are so focused on that, on sharing these stories, is because they'll never get shared in mainstream media, right? And in the beginning I was like, oh my god, I'm not getting views. Like, you're always like, oh, I need to have like these million views and hit these crazy metrics. And I'm like, actually, that's not the intent. The intent is to create space. And if that means we're not going to do the clickbaity stuff and we're going to do genuine storytelling, so be it, because we're creating space and we're creating a platform where people feel included, they feel heard. One of the first reactions a lot of people have when they land on our site is like, oh, everyone here looks so normal, like so relatable. And I think that's amazing, because like that's kind of the community I want to create. You want to see yourself in it, because what's the point of creating a beauty brand where you feel like you don't even belong? Like, what's the impact of that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Priyanka. That is, I mean, I haven't started going to investors or anything, but I'm not, unfortunately, not surprised, but also still so disappointed to hear that literally it's like, oh, sorry, we already filled up, our person of color portfolio, like we can't include you. It's just like, how is that still the way that we're operating? But I feel so confident that we will change it and have those conversations, and then really advocate for change and not settle. And on the consumer's perspective too, leading with your money is so great and a nice reminder. I think we all know that, but sometimes we don't know what brands to go to. So it's really great to have all of you here and know that, oh, now we can go to Coolfy for this. Equi for hair care, Diamond to find everything that we need. It's so important just to raise awareness about that. And even I love, so the community that you created with Coolfy, the Coolfy Bites on your blog, I'm obviously not South Asian, but I still relate to so many of the stories that you're sharing for other young women. It's just the general navigating career and life and issues that we all face as young women, and millennial and Gen Z and, all generations of women. So you've really done an incredible job being so thoughtful about creating an inclusive space for us to come and feel welcome. So thank you, Priyanka. Okay, Asia. So you, of course, are paving the way for women in science. And I remember we talked about this also in our interview. And when we first connected, you said, I'm doing things a bit differently than what my parents might expect or what my culture might expect. Like, I'm an Asian American woman, and you opened up a little bit about the ideas and maybe stereotypes that people had about you and what you should do for your career. Even in this panel, you mentioned a little bit about how your parents are like, what are you doing using these products, or, all of that. So I would love to hear your story about how that has played into your role in starting Alchemist Asia, and your advice for other women, whether it's Asian American women or just the next generation of women who are upcoming here and are having trouble getting out of the traditional path and really following their passions, how you navigate those conversations, and what might feel difficult, make it feel more possible.
Thank you. So, oh gosh, to elaborate with that. So, I'm very excited to share that my friend Rima is in this chat, and Rachel and Adriana. So they're childhood friends. We were also the only people of color growing up. So this is very exciting. And I know they're loving this panel right now. So this is just awesome, but they can attest for all that I'm about to say. But growing up as the only Chinese American in your high school is very pressing. So I was not only dealing with the pressure of living in a small town and everyone always looking at you differently, always being that one person in your class, like anytime anyone brought up like Asia or China, like you were always just like pinpointed. So it just having those sort of stereotypes already inflicted just from like school and society. I also had that like somewhat in my family. So we actually didn't practice all too much. So there was some stuff we would do like traditionally, but other times it was just trying to fit in. Like my parents were running a business. My grandmother opened up a restaurant in our hometown, and it was very difficult for her. And I remember watching she and my family just kind of like bow down to the customer just because they were like, we're trying to make a living, so we're just going to deal with it. And I was like, I don't want that. And so I was introduced into makeup really early in my life. I started doing it as early as like 6th grade. And before I left for college, I was like the makeup girl. And I was like, okay, I guess that's like a step past, oh, the Asian girl's coming. Like, so I guess like it's a little different, but I was known for my makeup because I wore lashes to class every single day because if you don't know, naturally like Chinese or Asian lashes just don't exist. And I started to hate that. I started hating that. And like even my family would do that. Like I originally wanted to go into chemistry because I was like, oh, there's cosmetic chemists, like that's super interesting. And I was still working at the restaurant at the time too with my mom, and she would talk to her regulars, and she's like, yeah, she never knew what college I went to. She would always say it wrong. And she's like, yeah, she's going to Channel Islands University something. And I'm like, that's not the name of it, but okay. And she would tell him that I was going to school to make makeup. And people always made like a sour face, like, oh, it was like the same look as people like going into cosmetology, which I do not think that they are not like worthy, don't get me wrong, but like people always judge people who go into that industry. And I started to hate it. And like I regret it so much because I'm like, what's wrong with that? Like, what's wrong with liking makeup? But I was so dead set that like if people thought I was the makeup girl, they thought I was dumb. Like that's just another societal issue that they put there, is like, oh, if you're gonna do a makeup brand, like all you think about is your looks and like makeup and how, like, no, it's not like that at all. And so I went into chemistry and I tried to go as far away from cosmetic chemistry as I wanted. And then here I am making cosmetics again. And like now I'm not ashamed of it. And again, it was because of like family pressure too, because I was the only one to go to college and graduate. And so there was so much pressure to succeed. And I felt like I needed to do the top and the best in my chemistry degree, but that's not necessarily what you want. You can go down a career path and hate your life. And that's what I'm hearing from a lot of our panelists, is they started in a field because they were told to. That's what you had to do. That's what you needed to do to fulfill your needs. But it's not fulfilling your needs. It's not fulfilling your passions either. And so I'm like unapologetic about wanting to do this now. And I was even like scared to put it on my LinkedIn for a while. I launched back in September, but I didn't put it on my LinkedIn until like this month, because I was so like scared of like what people were going to think of, like, oh gosh, she quit her lab technician job and now she makes makeup. Like, so I'm here to really break that down and know that people, anyone here in this audience, by the way, anyone who's going to listen to the recording later, like, you don't need a degree to build your business. You just need to have your passion and the ability like to network. It really doesn't take that sort of stuff. Like celebrities launch makeup brands every day. It's because they have the money for it. And like the products half the time are shit. Like they suck, but they're not like representing you. So really find your passion, pinpoint it, and just don't be afraid of it. Don't be ashamed of it at all. Like own it.
Yes, thank you so much, Asia. I love that story. And I really loved that we got to hear more about like your personal story and growing up, because I think that's so relatable to so many women here. And how you overcome the family pressures or what your family might think of you, the cultural stigmas that surround us when we're growing up, especially in like predominant areas where we're not really represented, how you're navigating that. And I love how, I wish my younger self could have been more like you in that way too, right? I wish that I was like, you know what, Abby, you don't have to do this corporate thing, or like you can take time to figure out what you want, which I still eventually did. But it took me getting older to feel more comfortable with being uncomfortable in that, and feeling confident in myself and my decisions and kind of doing something that was against the grain. So thank you so much for inspiring us and all of the other women here on today's panel. So that wraps up our discussion.